What's going on, YouTube? Back with another video. So, with Halloween 2 days away, and Halloween is actually my birthday, FYI, I figure why not talk about some of my all-time favorite horror movies. Now, I'm not a big horror movie lover, so don't be offended if like your all-time favorite isn't on the list or an all-time classic is on the list. This is just a quick run through of some of the ones that I personally enjoy. But in the comments, definitely let me know what ones you guys enjoy. So again, it's not a list of the all-time greatest or anything like that. It's just some of my personal favorites. Again, and I'm saying this as somebody who doesn't watch a ton of horror movies, but again, with Halloween being 2 days away, I figured what the heck. So my all-time favorite one though, and I'm not a big horror movie guy, but my all-time favorite one is Christine, John Carpenter's Christine. Film was released in 1983, based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. And this film is essentially just a film about a killer car. It's nonsensical, right? It's a ton of logical errors if you really get down to it, but there were so many things done well in this film, and it still, in my opinion, holds up today. It's not a special effects heavy film. It's not one that I think gets talked about a lot when we talk about the all-time great horror films. But man, I love this movie. Everything about it is just perfect, and probably the best thing about it is that the kind of like how Bumblebee in Transformers, right? How he can't talk, so he communicates through his radio. You know, movie clips, audio clips, whatever, or excuse me, music clips or whatever, right? To communicate something. And Christine does the same in this film, except the only thing that Christine does is fit these rock songs. But man, every song they chose was the best song they could have chose. It is uncanny how they like how well of a job they did picking those scenes. And just the score, which John Carter did himself, by the way, it's just phenomenal. Everything about the film, man, I just love it. It stands the test of time very well. There's actually a really cool scene where the car has been completely destroyed and it actually rebuilds itself. That scene was awesome. Um, yeah, does it have some issues? Yes, like I said, there's some logical errors with this film, but it's a film about a killer car. So you have to expect it. You have to suspend your disbelief when watching the film like this. The film came out in 1983. Again, I think it still holds up. It is my all-time favorite horror film, even though at the end of the day, I wouldn't really call it a horror film. It's more of a supernatural thriller. You know, it's more akin to like a Fatal Attraction, in my opinion, right? Than a legit horror film. But nonetheless, it holds up very well. I love Christine, one of my favorite. Well, actually, it is my favorite. But again, this isn't a ranking or anything like that. But this is just some of my favorites. But I will say that if I was ranking this list, Christine would be number one easily for me. Another favorite is Get Out. I recently just rewatched Get Out, and one thing I noticed about that film, it does not have an ounce of fat on it. Every scene in that film is critical to the story. Every scene that happens builds up to something that happens later on. That film is just amazing, and I read that it was only shot in like 23 days. It's not a long film, but it's just brilliant. You know, it's a very original story, very well acted. You really feel the scenes, like the awkwardness of the scenes, the intensity of the scenes. You really feel it, and that's what I love about it. And then, you know, they did a great job offsetting with the humor. Obviously, Jordan Peele, you know, being one of the comedic geniuses of his time, arguably, you know, Key and Peele. A lot of people love that show. Um, you know, so obviously the comedy elements in the film, they work very well. Give a little real a lot of credit. He was brilliant in the film. He was arguably, in my opinion, the standout of the film. But even the little scenes, man, like the scene where the what was she called? I guess like the maid or whatever. She goes in the room. She's like, no, no, no. Like that scene is just brilliant. The scene when they're running toward the gatekeeper, groundskeeper, whatever. He's running towards them. Um, the teacup scene, like, oh, it's just a brilliant film. My favorite part of the film, arguably, right, is the scene when we found out that Rose is in on it, and that scene, like the way everything's building up in that scene, and how like at that point, you know, Chris is starting to freak out. He's like, Rose, give me the keys. Rose, give me the keys. Like that scene is brilliant. How she's just like she's going along with it. She's fumbling, and then all of a sudden she just whips the keys out. I was like, hey, you know, I can't let you go, right? And it's like, oh my god, that's what you're like, oh man. And then that ending scene, and then another part about that film that was like when I was in the theater, right, it was kind of a crowded theater, and one part was at the end, right, where right after he's strangling Rose and he like lets her go, and then you hear the cop car pull up, and you hear that siren, he's just like, oh shoot. Everybody in the theater was like, oh man, it's like, because he obviously, you know, at that point we're rooting for Chris, want to see him survive, and obviously it's like black guy, you know, shot white girl, you know what I mean? It just looked, you know, two other dead bodies. It's like, oh, he's going down, you know. And then it turns to be Lil Rel. Like that scene was just, it was such a sour relief. And then the I'm T S mother effing A, like, Like that's just such a great movie, man. I love Get Out. Um, gonna keep it with Jordan Peele. Us is, in my opinion, like a legitly terrifying film. Man, that film is scary. Like, it's a film that I still watch though because it's a semi complex film. I don't understand everything he's trying to say in it, but it's just, for one thing, Lupita Nyong'o was phenomenal in the film. She was phenomenal. Like, she definitely should have got some Oscar recognition for that film. I believe most people believe that. I mean, she should have, man. She killed it, dual roles, and she knocked it out of the park. But everything about that film, man, is again, give a lot of credit to Jordan Peele coming up with these like original ideas. And I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but the fact that he's doing original works, that they get a lot of buzz, that's making good money at the box office. He's coming up with original ideas. I love it. So I hope he continues to push the envelope like he's doing. It may not always work, but let's just appreciate the fact that he is trying to go beyond the normal conventions of the horror genre, right? That he's trying to do something different. And for me, Us is legitly scary in my opinion. you know, that scene, man, when and the husband he first walks out, when they see like the family, the doppelganger family standing outside, and he's walking out there, and the dude just claps. They like scared. You like, oh my god! Well, I was in the theater tripping when I seen that. Oh man. The kills are brutal, and what I like about it too is it's not like it's not super bloody, it's not super gory, it's not just torture porn, right? Like the Terrifier series. Um, and I don't mind the Terrifier series. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's definitely torture porn, right? It's not super heavy on plot, even though they given it a little bit of plot, but it's just torture porn essentially, right? And that's what I liked about Us is that there are a lot of kills in it, right? But it's not torture porn, right? And it was scary without having to just show a bunch of blood and guts and people getting killed in super creative ways. So I really appreciate that about the film. And again, I appreciate the fact that he's doing things differently, and so I'm definitely looking forward to his next project, whatever that ends up being. I'm going to take it back with this next film on this Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. What can I say about that film that hasn't been said? It's a classic. It still holds the test of time. Um, it's not super scary when you watch it now. I'm sure it was in 1984 probably, but it's still a brilliant film in my opinion. Robert Englund, obviously he's a legend, right? He killed the Death Freddy. Johnny Depp's film debut. That scene where Johnny Depp gets sucked in the bed and then the blood spews out everywhere. That's still one of the like coolest and craziest things I've seen in the film. You know, um, so I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and the fact that you had a villain who's very charismatic, like Freddy, right? I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't born in 1984, but I like to think that was something like different at the time, and it kind of still is now. You don't see too many horror villains that are as charismatic as Freddy, right? You talking about a character who stood the test of time, who was an icon of not just the horror genre, but just film in general. And that's a testament to obviously how brilliant of a job Robert Englund did, but also how great that original film is. You're talking about how scary of a villain that Freddy is. So I just love what he did with the film. Um, Again, it holds the test of time very well. The character Nancy, she was really good. She was a strong female protagonist, and I like the fact that she was just a strong protagonist who happened to be female. They didn't try to go out their way to like tell us she's strong because she's female. She's just a strong character, and I like that about it. I'm not trying to get into the whole woke debate, but I just do appreciate the fact that you gave us, to me, that whole trying to give a strong female character. It's better to just give me a strong character and then make if that character happens to be a female, happens to be a female. And I think she should get talked about a little bit more when we talk about some of the great female, I guess, like icons, if you will, action icons or whatever, or just film icons in general. I think she should, or heroines. I think she should be talked about a little bit more. The next one on the list, I'm gonna cheat a little bit because it's not technically a horror film, but it kind of has a horror vibe to it, and that's the original Terminator, James Cameron's Terminator. I mean, again, another film that I can't say enough about it, right? That I can't say anything about it that hasn't already been said. The film is brilliant from the minute it starts to the minute it ends. It's almost a perfect film. I don't call it a perfect film, but it's not far from being a perfect film. Obviously the effects, obviously because it's 1984, they don't hold up the best, but the film itself does. The film is just crazy good, and again, it has it feels more like a horror movie. Like you feel like it feels like a horror movie. Like Arnold didn't have a lot of dialogue in the first one. Yeah, he didn't have a lot, but every line he utters, man, he utters it with this this intensity, just like this dude is scary when he walks. Like he's straight face, he's mean mugging everybody. Like when he speaks, it's clear as the wreck, and it's scary as hell. Like he is a guy. I mean, you don't want to go to his bad side. Now, when you see him, he's getting shot left and right. He's just getting up like it's nothing. Nobody's stopping him. Nothing's stopping him. It doesn't matter what you throw at him. He's just coming for you. Like if that like is again, it has horror movie vibes. If you watch it, it feels like you're watching a horror movie because and I think one of the best parts about the original Terminator is that you feel yourself, you feel like Sarah Connor, you feel like you're being chased by the Terminator in that film, and that's when the film can really make you feel like you're in it. That's the mark of a great film, in my opinion. So again, I think it could qualify, even though it's not technically a horror movie. I think it can qualify. That's just my opinion. Uh, I'm gonna go a little bit more into the recent now. Barbarian. Barbarian did a great job of subverting expectations. Obviously, because you cast Bill Skarsgård as like one of the main characters, and you have the girl and him, and they rent the Airbnb, and they turn out they rent the same one or whatever, and they have no idea of each other. And obviously, casting him in it right, it made it feel like, okay, this dude's gonna be up to something, because he had already played Pennywise. So you're thinking like, oh, this dude's gonna be up to something, man. Like I don't know what it is, but this dude got something up his sleeve. Like, but they did a great job of like, and the spoiler alert if you haven't seen the film, but he does get killed like halfway through. But the story of Barbarian is a really good story. And it has a couple funny moments in the two bad moments that just had me dying. Like that man, Justin Long, he deserves a lot of credit for that film, man, because he had me rolling a couple scenes. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, man. He did a really good job with that film. But it has a really clever story. The way it tied everything in together was really great. Again, it's not the scariest movie in the world, but it's scary enough. You definitely get some scares, and the jump scare was used like brilliantly. One of the best jump scares I've ever seen since like Jurassic Park jump scare. The scene when the arm falls on what Dr. Ellie, Laura Dern, when the arm falls on her and then the Velociraptor jumps out. That's probably like one of the greatest jump scares of all time, if not the greatest. This film has one that's up there with it. I'm not gonna say it's better. I'm not gonna say it's rivals it, but I'm gonna say it's up there with it. Like the jump scare, it was perfectly timed and hilarious when it happens. Like I was in the theater rolling, so I really love that one. Barbarian is a great film that I think will stand the test of time. I hope it's a film that gets more recognition because it is a really good film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Again, definitely check it out. Next on my list, again, well, if I had to go next, I was thinking maybe going like the Terrifier, right? The Terrifier is one that stuck with me just because of how brutal it is. uh, again, it's not the greatest, but I do enjoy it. It is one that I've recommended to like friends and family. So I mean, it did stick with me, and so that means I had to like it more. Now I want to admit it's not a great film by any means, I think, but is it enjoyable in its own right? It is. He definitely kills people in very creative ways. It's torture porn, but I think it's also, it is what it is. It's meant to be that way. And so as that, I do get some enjoyment and I see why people like it. Is it, my cup of tea per se? No, it's not my cup of tea, but did I enjoy it? Yeah, I did. I'm not gonna lie. I even enjoyed the second one. I haven't seen the third one yet. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. But I've heard how a couple of the kills went down, so I don't know for sure if I'll be watching that. But definitely, man, the Terrifier is not a bad series at all. Um, and I like, so again, I'm not the biggest horror fan. Um, but those are just a few of my favorites. I did cheat a little bit by including Terminator, but I think it can qualify. So yeah, just thanks for watching. Have a safe Halloween. Have fun. Be responsible. And wish me a happy birthday in the comments. And also in the comments, let me know what are some of your favorite horror films of all time. Thanks for watching.